afternoon and welcome to this brief talk on the FMCG market in India, the innovation imperative. Now we all are observing how the FMCG market is gradually evolving, and in my own guess it has reached a reasonable stage wherein we can start commenting about innovations, whether they are incremental innovations or they are just continuous innovations. Whatever be the case, innovations today are the order of the day. But before moving on to the core topic on the innovation imperative, let us have a brief look at the FMCG market in India. It is huge. The size of the market is really huge. By 2016, the estimates are it will reach a turnover of about $37 billion. There are 8.1 million retail outlets that sell a range of products. Indian companies and multinational companies are really fighting out each other for this space, and the competition is really intensifying. As if competition was not sufficient in the organized market, we also observe that a fifth of the market is taken away by the unorganized market and cheaper imports from neighboring countries. Now, independent of all these facts that I've just quoted, there are immense opportunities. What have been the factors that have contributed to the growth of this market? Needless to say, the rising middle class, with it the rising incomes, rise of discretionary spending, and the ability of companies to reach to the deepest pockets in India, which today has about 30 odd states and about some union territories wherein the reach of these companies has gone. Rural to urban, we observe 70% is still categorized as rural, but companies have nevertheless tried to reach out to these markets as well. And urban markets today represent sort of a saturation point, which is what has created this opportunity for innovation. Now, what have been the biggest challenges that the sector is facing? One of the major points, I would say, has been ensuring success of innovations. Now, I'm not going to get into the textbook definition of innovation, but companies in the year 2012 in India, as per some statistics, have launched about 17,000, I would not put them in bracket or quotes, innovations. We call them innovations because they are not necessarily new to the market, but they are reformulations or some cosmetic changes. Now, out of these 17,000, we observe that the success rate has been really very bad. Only 0.14% of these innovations have really hit the market successfully in a commercial sense. And number-wise, it's only about 28 products that have succeeded in this market. A second challenge, going by reports, what I observe is organizations are yet to create mechanisms and processes to make customer engagement more delightful. Customer is shopping because he has a set of needs, but organizations today are still grappling with this challenge as to how to make this shopping processes more engaging and more rewarding and more sustainable. The third point that I look at as a challenge is the innovation processes within the organization. And what we observe is companies still operate in the reactive mode than in a proactive mode, which means the cues for innovation come from the competition, not so much as the consumer. And to that extent, a related point is the fourth point is about making sense of data that is getting captured on a daily basis. Thousands and thousands gigabytes of data is getting captured every day across the country in these 8 million outlets or the modern trade or the online trade. But what we observe is companies, not many of them have putting mechanisms in place to capture this data and make meaning from this data. And that is what is a challenge for the future. Now, what is the way forward? Is there a way forward? Yes, successful companies have shown the way. Case in point, Colgate in India, case in point, Dabur in India, Godrej, Marico. There are exemplar success stories, but these stories are few and far, which means on an organization-wide level, you cannot really count an entire organization to have succeeded on the innovation imperative. What does it require? Now I have very few brief points to capture, and I will restrict my examples to just the food market within FMCG. Way back in 2005, if my memory is right, Alan Lafley from Procter & Gamble launched a program called Connect and Develop. Essentially meant to reach out to different sources of innovation and not restrict the organization to their R&D labs. And this initiative over a period of time has yielded P&G very positive results. A second area that companies can look forward to is to reset the brand trajectory. Now, a lot of brands, though we may believe or are made to believe that brands are immortal, brands also have a life. And in this hyper-competitive world, brands, it looks to me, have a finite life, not an infinite life, which means they are mortal as anybody else. And brands need constant rejuvenation in order to be relevant. Any number of examples. One of the big examples that I have seen is the resurrection of Lifebuoy by Levers, and the resurrection of Surf again by Levers, the resurrection of Synthol by Godrej. Now these are some of the brands that would have actually gone into oblivion, but for the smart initiative taken by some brand managers or product managers in these companies. Now, how do you make your brand relevant or make it relevant for future? An example in India comes from Dabur. Now, Dabur is a 130-year-old brand, and most of its brands have a strength and a weakness combined together. That means they are overtly health-based, which means to a consumer who is looking at excitement as a trigger, Dabur doesn't really connect to that consumer. And if the current demographic characteristics of India have to be seen, Dabur is only relevant for the baby boomers in a sense, that means the 40 to 50 year olds, and not the 20 to 30 year olds who comprise the larger pool of Indian consumers today. Now the brand has taken an initiative, and if reports are to be seen, leading papers have covered that story, that Dabur is looking at being relevant for the next 130 years. And how to make that happen? I think that one of the first starting points is to hire younger talent, hire younger people, and a lot of other things that I've just mentioned a while ago in terms of making your research relevant for the younger consumer, while at the same time not losing your old flavor of health. How do you combine these two elements is the brand manager's challenge. A third thing is that I wanted to share in context to this topic is reaching out to this channel is again a big challenge. We also observe that let's look at the redefinition of value. At the bottom of the pyramid, we observe that 50% of the revenues today in the foods market comes from a category called fortified foods. Now, what are fortified foods? Now, these are foods that have a health supplement built into them. Instead of selling bland noodles, you just add dal, just add atta, and the company can now become more meaningful when it reaches out to the consumer and says, you are eating noodles, right? But you are eating a healthy noodle. And that is what makes a difference to the consumer's life today, who is becoming increasingly health conscious. The fortified foods today represents about 50%. Let's move to the next category called the dietary supplements, which contribute about 25% of the health food market. Now, what are dietary supplements? These are nutraceuticals. That means you heard about probiotics, and we also heard about a brand called Leshu, which is a success across the globe in marketing vitamin water. That means water with a vitamin supplement. Probiotics, which means there is a health supplement but added to yogurt, added to curd, added to ice creams. Now this category contributes to about 25%. A third category is the naturally health food products. For instance, olive oil. I mean, within the cooking oil market, we observe olive oil stands out in the crowd. The reason is very simple. It is naturally extracted. It has lower cholesterol building capability. That means it's a healthy oil. It doesn't have the after effects of any other oil that we consume as Indians. So price becomes a non-issue, and this market has grown tremendously over the years. We also see green tea, herbal tea, and a whole lot of other supplements that are coming into the naturally health products. Last but not the least, we have a small segment called the better for you, or BFY kind of segment, which is about 3 to 5% of the market, but is increasingly becoming relevant because India has a population which is also old, which also needs products that are low in sugar, low in sodium, maybe high in fiber, and this is a market that the companies don't want to ignore. Now, you just saw these four categories: fortified dietary supplements, you saw the naturally healthy products, you also saw the better for you range. Now this is something that if companies could do in one category, just one sector, I'm sure the lessons can be learned by companies which sell other categories, and maybe companies have already started doing it, and but the speed at which they are moving is not sufficient enough. So companies will have to now increasingly look at what is the India-centric solution. Motivation can be drawn from the connect and develop model of P&G. You need to institutionalize innovation within the organization, and maybe an innovation factory within the organization that cuts across levels, cuts across hierarchies will have to be built up. A greater consumer connect with the help of data and data analytics is the order of the day. And frequent customer engagement programs and customer education will ensure that innovations become the bedrock for the FMCG market to grow in India. I'm sure I have added some value through my talk. The FMCG market in India, the innovation imperative. Thank you so much.